I wonder if you could talk a little more about some of the partnership ideas or possibilities that you have in mind. You mentioned like Hearst earlier, and I wonder what else comes to mind there.
Definitely. I will love to, share that I've had a great working history with iHeartMedia, and iHeartMedia continues to evolve their stance on the different cannabinoids and the different ways to reach people through audio. We know that podcasts and radio are a really effective way to reach people across the country, and so are looking to develop, in addition to a partnership with iHeartMedia, also thinking about the many forms of advertising, whether it's an audio commercial, which can be very, very engaging, reaching people where they are in listening to their favorite podcasts or radio stations across the country. And I'm notably thinking, some of our more rural areas that very much trust their local radio stations, and has been an incredible way to get the word out about, dispensaries near them or legalization efforts near them. And so certainly looking to look at audio as a very effective way. But there's anywhere that we can advertise compliantly. It's absolutely the sky is the limit, and by that the sky I mean funding and sponsorship and partners at this point. The amazing place that we are with cannabis, and as the council, because we're leading with a message that's generally open to the category. It's allowing publishers to engage with us in a way that they may have been nervous about, either having to verify a brand. Is this brand legit? Are they real? Do they have? And then you get into beyond, if we trust this brand, then how do we run media that has a call to action that leads to a site that's age gated, right? And then is selling cannabis products or not. So without those major concerns, what we're able to do as a council is start to engage with a publisher that categorically is open to the space. And the messaging around consider cannabis and within states that are legal, or the idea of looking at states that are coming online and how can we be a advocate for the efforts that are happening in those states that are developing. But in thinking about the way that we roll these out, there's incredible support and excitement around this, and we'll be looking at media partners who are excited to give in kind, similar to other media partners that have blacklisted and also categorically rejected cannabis business in the past, start to open their doors. And as we put out fantastic messages that celebrate creativity, that celebrate cannabis, hopefully what we can do is then continue to encourage those publishers and make the business case for them to continue opening it up to then more brands coming, either through the Cannabis Media Council membership network, or cannabis brands going directly to them, looking for that opportunity.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. The council the council's plans to serve cannabis brands, and you mentioned the membership network. I wonder if you could talk more about that.
Yes. So when we launched with over 100 brands, we intentionally connected with independent brands, and many of them female-owned, queer-owned and led, BIPOC. So looking at really from the jump a diversity of ownership, and then also of products, and then also national representation. And so we welcomed our brands in to say, first, does this resonate with you? What a campaign that's category-wide. So thinking about if we were in a legal state, we would be organizing around a checkoff program, or a legal country, we'd be looking around at a checkoff program, which is super standard for like the dairy industry, and they put out the Got Milk ads. We're thinking about beef, it's what's for dinner. Those are campaigns that are led by the industry as a whole to advocate for the category. And so the first question to our brands is, would campaigns that that endeavor to be the tide that lifts all boats be helpful to you? And it'll be unbranded, all the things that are, that make us amazing and differentiated in the market will be a bit smoothed over. We're not going to have conversations about, sun grown versus, indoor grown. So much of that is still based on regulations and in the state and what you can possibly do. But instead, we're just going to be the collective voice, one that puts out, and that leads by example and puts out amazing ways to advertise and to do it well, and publishers who are open to it and doing it well. But then also, to keep cannabis as an option top of mind in their markets. And it was a resounding yes, like we're in, brands, we're game. And so it's our goal actually to never raise funds or need to raise funds from brands. They have been carrying the torch for decades at this point, depending on which market you're in. And so this is a way for the Cannabis Media Council to say thank you to the brands that did make it their entire marketing budget to educate the industry, in addition to doing all of the heroic efforts to get products to the people. But then also thinking about how do we connect those brands in a meaningful way to the people and the organizations that are sponsoring and supporting the Cannabis Media Council. And so the primary people who have supported the Cannabis Media Council have been people who want this to, individuals who want this to be part of their legacy of changing hearts and minds and agree with that this is the way to do it. The second group is people who are interested in the category, but a bit nervous about betting on or investing in a particular brand at the jump. And then the third category is organizations within the cannabis space that are ancillary providers and want to connect with these brands in a meaningful and authentic way. And so thinking about those three different types of support, and we welcome support. We are set up with a fiscal sponsor, so all donations and sponsorships are tax deductible at this point, and we are on a path of applying for a 501c3, but we are set up in a nonprofit model and are very grateful for our fiscal sponsors with SEMA Studios, which allows us to receive tax deductible donations, which in cannabis, there's so little that's tax deductible. It was a big goal for us to make it happen. And so in thinking about, how we move forward with those groups, the real hope is that brands will not only get a bit of a reprieve with some air cover of advertising, but then also will be connected with new opportunities for them to develop their own marketing mix. And one note I will say is that marketing as an endeavor within cannabis is still deeply underfunded. And we all understand why. It's super expensive whether through legal, compliance, supply chain to get products to market. But if we compare our marketing spend in cannabis versus retail or CPG, cannabis brands are spending anywhere from kind of 5 to 8% on their marketing in a general statement, whereas retail is 10 to 25%, depending on the maturity of the business, and CPG is in a growth environment that we're in, also hovers around 12 to 20%. And so I think that as we develop more opportunities for marketers to market, then there will also be an increased investment in being able to help, build these brands and scale these businesses.
I think 280E has obviously been a big hindrance there as well, because cannabis brands can't deduct their marketing expenses or any of their expenses. Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you, we're about out of time, but I wanted to ask you, you mentioned you're talking about the storytelling piece and how a lot of cannabis publications like the Bluntness have already been doing this. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what your thoughts are on the potential role for cannabis publications like that in this mainstream facing mission.
Yes, I'm so excited that you brought this up. So part of the part of the goal with the Cannabis Media Council is to put out annual guidelines every year. So next May is when we've circled the date to release an annual guideline of how to talk about cannabis, how to advertise cannabis, how to image cannabis. And with those guidelines, the number one source of who's doing this well will be our cannabis publishers, who have been against all headwind doing this so well. And so the role of cannabis publishers for us is, one, we want to illustrate and show and give you leadership on what you've already accomplished and done so well. And so in thinking about how we engage with you going forward, and we're so thrilled to be part of this conversation, is that we will be looking to highlight and show how to do it well. And cannabis publishers will lead and set the example for mainstream publishers who are just starting to figure this out and bring it online. So really excited to have that connection and formalize those relationships. The second way that we would love to do this is that as we engage people with our national campaigns, is that we also want to find ways to direct people to cannabis publications who are already doing the good work of explaining more about this plant, or sharing the stories, or answering the questions that so many people who are just starting to consider this category need to read. And so we will also be looking for great opportunities to direct people from these campaigns to our cannabis publishers for them to continue and uplift their great work.
Awesome. Amy, this has been great. I wonder, before we go, if there's anything else you'd like to add or plug even?
I mean, thank you so much for this, and thank you for the good work that you're doing and your leadership. As noted, we would love and welcome the support for the Cannabis Media Council. All donations are tax deductible and can be processed through our website. And we really welcome people that want to be part of sponsoring this major national campaigns to please reach out to us with your networks, with your recommendations, with your support, so that we can continue growing this from the heartbeat of a movement, but into the industry that we want to experience.